All right, you are listening to the BACStage Boys. My name is George Earwicker. I'm a university student at Falmouth, and joining me is...
I'm Joseph Michell. I'm at Bath, well not Bath, Bath Spa University, also doing film. That's my credentials.
Excellent. Right, so on The Guardian recently, they've been doing this thing of like, what your favourite film was when you were 12. And I think that's a really interesting thing to look at in terms of how like tastes develop. Because
For sure.
when we met, we were like 12, weren't we? It would have been like maybe younger. Like our favourite films at 12 would have been like our favourite films when we met each other.
Yeah.
And I can't remember what yours was. I've told you what mine was recently. But what was yours? Because I don't know.
Well, I thought it was kind of interesting that there's quite a variety of stuff that I was watching at that time, which is kind of reflects what your taste is at that age, or was for me anyway. Kind of a mixture of the stuff that I'd known in the past, and then new stuff, and then also just a lack of what I would see as my taste now. So
well, it's like a guilty pleasures almost, kind of revealing your darkest secrets. Okay, what did you have?
So I'd always had Back to the Future as my favourite film, probably until that time. So
I mean, that's not a guilty pleasure. That's like that's still a really good movie.
It is. And then I've got Pulp Fiction, because I think I'd just seen Pulp Fiction when I first
that was around
BACStage.
I mean, that was around my period of Pulp Fiction obsession. Pulp Fiction is a weird film because it is a film that when you first see it is like just like nothing you've ever seen before in your life. And the older I get, the more I'm like, I just don't care. Like my dad's like suggested, "Do you want to rewatch it?" the other day, and I was like, no, not really. Like there's stuff in it that I find like boring. I mean, my favourite film when I was 12, as I've told you, was Kill Bill Volume 1. And that is a very similar thing, because I think the reason it appealed to me as like a 12-year-old is it is just like nothing you've ever seen before. It was really violent. Like I tried to watch it when I was 11, I think, because it was on TV. I tried to watch it when I was 11, and I got to the scene in the hospital where like they're like the creepy guys like raping her in her sleep, and I got to that bit, and I was no, okay, right, this is too much for me. And then I came back a year later, kind of knowing what I was getting myself into, and I was absolutely enamored with it as a film. But I rewatched it a couple of days ago. It's not good. It's really not a good film. I mean, I can see why it appealed to me, because it is a film that is kind of purely hedonistic, if you know what I mean. Like it is a film that is, its value is totally entertainment value. Mm-hmm. I mean, I feel like a bit of like, even though I don't think Kill Bill is a particularly good film, I do feel like a bit of a pretentious person saying it was my favourite film at 12. I feel like there were definitely things that I liked at 12 that were not good.
Well, I was going to get onto that in my as my final.
Oh, okay. Yeah. What is it?
Well, I was a big fan of Adam Sandler, and not his good films. It was like stupid comedies as a whole. Something about that appealed to me at the time. At the same time that I was discovering these more interesting films, they kind of were in the background as something to fall back on, or something like that, which I thought was kind of interesting, that I could still find things to like about them.
Yeah, The Waterboy or whatever,
Yeah, I don't think I did like that one, but...
Adam Sandler's comedies are a strange thing, because I remember at the time when I was, 12, when we were both 12, they were like very popular. Like it was still the era of like Blockbuster. They had the Blockbuster in town, and we'd go in and you'd see,
that's
what
where
was
I would rent
for
them.
rent. Yeah, and there was always loads of Adam Sandler comedies. But the thing about them is, even when I was 12, I didn't find them funny, but I still watched them. I would watch a. Yeah.
I never laughed.
I would probably No, I never laughed. I would watch the film, and I would not laugh like or maybe I'd laugh like once or twice, but it would be like nothing, and then I'd end the film, and then I'd go and do the same thing again like the next week. Like it's a really baffling thing of what I don't know why I did that. It could just be like a hegemonic thing. Like you're just like, oh, these are the films that people watch. Because you see them like advertised, and you see people watching them, and people talk about them. People do see them, and as a kid, you're like, oh, this is movies. This is the movies people talk about. These are obviously the ones.
Yeah,
but I don't know. I mean,
not just. I mean, I think particularly those films are interesting to me now, just because I'm so kind of baffled by the fact that I found something, and I don't know. I feel like maybe it's the same thing that draws me to him now as a serious actor that I found interesting about them then. There's a strange kind of off-kilter thing that they all have. I haven't watched one in some time.
About Sandler as a performer, whether you like you were saying, like whether he's serious or whether he's comedic, is there is a base level of unpleasantness to it.
Yeah.
And I mean, maybe that's an appeal of his comedies, in that it's something that doesn't pretend to be nice. Like you're not watching the nicest, most attractive, most likable leading man in the world. You're actually watching someone who's a bit of a slime ball, bit of a scumbag, you know, who just has that kind of air about them. I don't know. And maybe there's something appealing about that because it is so different to what you traditionally would get in the kind of mainstream films you would be watching around then. You know, he's not like a Robert Downey Jr. or a Johnny Depp. He's not an attractive guy. He's not a charismatic guy. I'm sorry, Adam Sandler. I do like Adam Sandler.
About what you said about like the blockbuster in town, because that's exactly what it is, and that's almost more what I'm thinking then. And it could be anything, basically just bad movies that I would rent from Blockbuster and watch at home. And it was almost like the less substance, the less that I would look for in a film now, like the less value in it, the more it would be kind of what I was looking for, as opposed to other things. Like being able to watch Raging Bull and think that was good, but then the next day watch some really like, and chick flicks as well.
I mean, I think what it is, what the thing is with your favourite film when you're 12, it is a purely sensational, hedonistic thing. It is like, this is a movie that makes me feel good. This is a movie that has like cool shit happening in it. Like you're saying in Blockbuster, you go into Blockbuster and you look at the cover that has like an explosion or a gun, and you're like, this is a movie. You know, this is what I'm looking for. But I think the way in which we consumed films, I think, defined the kind of rubbish we would just like assume is good. It would be like what was on the front shelves at Blockbusters would be like, oh, this is it. This is what we're after. Right. So shall we get on to what we came here to talk about?
Yeah,
Paul Thomas Anderson, the main event. So recently, I was on Letterboxd and I saw Joe had watched Magnolia, and he was raving about it, and I'd never seen it, so I thought I'd give it a visit. And well, we'll get on to what I thought of Magnolia later. But that made me think of, you know, we were talking about what we were going to talk about on this, and we thought we'd do Paul Thomas Anderson. But right, shall we start at the beginning? 1996.
Yeah, okay.
Hard Eight.
Hard Eight.
What's so remarkable about Hard Eight is how unremarkable it is. I mean, for a guy who made like such brilliant films later in his career, it's really not like a big, massive breakout like something like, I don't know, Reservoir Dogs or Hunger by Steve McQueen or something like that.
Reservoir Dogs, 'cause
it's like, but they're friends, Quentin Tarantino and Paul Thomas Anderson, and you know they are often compared because they're kind of from the same era. But as kind of debuts go, I mean, Hard Eight is a really
storm
kind
out
of
the gate in the same way as Tarantino.
No, he didn't. I mean, I think he did. Start. He just didn't storm out the gate with his debut film, because Hard Eight is just a very kind of conventional, gangster film that wishes it wasn't a conventional gangster film. Like, it really doesn't want to give you just, like, the thrills like a Scorsese picture will give you. It doesn't want to give you, like, the guns and the action and the gambling and the, you know, the gloss and all that kind of stuff. I think it kind of thinks itself as being
indebted to all those things.
Yeah.
It wears its influences on its sleeve in a big way.
I mean, I think a comparison we've been talking about is because Johnny Greenwood does a lot of the scores for Paul Thomas Anderson films, we've been talking about them like Radiohead albums, and Hard Eight is very much Pablo Honey. It is very much the debut effort that's just pretty lackluster, and kind of you listen to it and you think, what's the fuss about? Like, I don't want to be like too down on Hard Eight because it is a good movie. It's just
it just suffers compared to everything that came after.
Exactly. I mean, let's move on to something we can be positive about. 1997.
Okay.
Boogie Nights. This is when he stormed out of the gate. For all intents and purposes, I'm going to refer to this as his debut film because this is where we get.
It's a barnstormer.
You know, everything we've come for later on. I mean, it came out the year after Hard Eight. It looks like it cost about 10 times as much as Hard Eight. It has massive stars, massive sets. You know, just from like a materialist basis, and then as a kind of a story, as a parable, as an epic, it has so much more depth to the characters, so much more energy. It's got you know, a brilliant structure, this kind of rise and fall pivot that pivots around that New Year's Eve party on the eve 1979 became 1980, which is just like, I'm just getting excited talking about it because I think I watched it again the other day and it is so good. It is, I think, what he gets in that film is the characters. He manages to nail these really singular characters that are both very empathetic, but just utter dolts. Just really, really stupid characters you can laugh at and simultaneously feel sorry for. And I think a scene, you know, that really exemplifies that is the scene on the New Year's Eve party when everything's about to go.
With Philip Seymour Hoffman.
It's going to go. Philip Seymour Hoffman, exactly, where he takes him outside to see the new car. Yeah, and it's like
tragic.
If this was, if this was any other actor other than Philip Seymour Hoffman, this would be a hilarious scene. But it is horrible to watch. I mean, I mean, Philip Seymour Hoffman is a character, you know, who we will come back to and back to and back to in these films because so often, you know, even in a film like Boogie Nights where he has not like a massive role, you know, he maybe steals the show in Boogie Nights, I think, just with that one scene. But I mean, what a brilliant actor he is, and he has that thing of being able to give you these really, you know, oafish, not particularly intelligent, not particularly attractive, not even particularly nice characters, and he makes you feel sorry for them. He has this kind of this balefulness in his eyes, and I think it's a really great film, and just that core structure of the pivot on that night of the turn of the decade when everything is it's that same dichotomy he has in the characters of really funny but really kind of and then really tragic at the same time. It's that fine line between comedy and tragedy, and the characters all have that line, you know, straight down the middle of them.
That all comes across so clearly in the arc of, I can't remember his name, but the character played by William H. Macy, who repeatedly finds his wife being unfaithful, which at the start is like a funny, almost like a running gag, but he manages to turn that into something completely different in its at the scene in the party. I don't want to give anything away.
I don't know if I mean, let's not spoil things where absolutely, you know, where we can avoid spoiling them. I mean, that scene in the party, we don't need to spoil because I think people know what we're talking about. But it's that thing of the first half being this brilliant comedy film about these, you know, these total oafs for the most part. I mean, Jack Horner is more kind of It's got it going on a bit more, but for the most part, it's a comedy about a bunch of kind of likable but kind of foolish people, and then when you get into the second half, it becomes this immense tragedy about their downfall.
Yeah, I mean, there's a suggestion of that darkness being in there.
It's like a seesaw. It does just go, like that, and it switches on the night of that party. But that party sequence is quite a long sequence, so throughout the night, things go gradually wrong. And then so you go into the party and it's one film, and then you come out of the party and it's another film.
I mean, that all happens, and then it's like, bam, 1980, right?
Yeah.
When I first saw it, it's like, okay,
oh dear,
things have changed.
Yeah. I think what makes it so tragic is that they are a family. I think because in that first half, whilst they are kind of they're funny characters, but you do get a sense of real kindness and love between them. And I think what it says with that also about the pornography industry, that it's not, obviously in some parts it is, but with these characters, it is not a sleazy place. It is built off this basic level of kind of mutual respect and people being there to do a job and doing that job and being nice to each other whilst they do that job. And I think that's a really kind of mature approach to it, because you could make it really, nasty and unpleasant and leery, but it's not. It's actually
it's not that at all.
It's affectionate, and the scenes where they're shooting porno is funny rather than funny, and also uplifting. And that's also evident.
I have a hard time talking people into seeing that film.
Yeah.
Just because of the.
I mean, if you're listening, watch that film. Listen to Joe when he tells you to watch it. But yeah, it's that kind of that attitude towards sexuality, and also through the roller girl character played by Heather Graham, and that she has within the world of the porn industry, she is really comfortable and really self-assured and really happy, doing her job, having fun doing it. And then as soon as she gets out of that world, it's when people start being disrespectful and start, objectifying and being really mean to her, like in high school, or like when they have that sequence where they just get a guy off the street to come and have sex with her, and everyone
in the car.
Yeah, and everyone,
Yeah.
So that kind of level of portraying, of portraying a professionalism in the pornography industry, I think is a really interesting angle the film takes. And just showing these people to be nice people.
Yeah.
I mean, they're good people. They have, flaws and like dumb idiosyncrasies, like Don Cheadle dressing like a cowboy and things like that. But they are basically good people. And Mark Wahlberg in that film, I think this is something we're going to talk about.
He's great.
Yeah, he is. And it's a Paul Thomas Anderson thing that he can bring great performances out of not so great or generally not so great actors. He does it
inconsistent
with Sandler. Yeah, he does it with Sandler. He does it with Wahlberg. Did you see recently, by the way, Mark Wahlberg asked God to forgive him for Boogie Nights?
Yeah.
Yeah, he was like, I
think he's asking. He's asking about the wrong film.
Yeah, I know. That's what I was thinking. I was like, in what universe is Boogie Nights more of an affront to God than Transformers: The Last Night? I mean, he
or the what's it called? The Happening.
Yeah, The Happening, or Pain and Gain. I mean, but I think actually there's an argument to be made about Boogie Nights. If I was to pick something that I was less sure about in the film, it's that some characters feel kind of extraneous to the main thrust, because it is kind of, it's Dirk Diggler and it's Roller Girl and it's Jack Horner, and they're kind of the main three, plus maybe the Julianne Moore character and John C. Reilly character
Julianne Moore,
as well. But
Reed Rothschild.
But then there's the characters like the Don Cheadle character and the William H. Macy character feel kind of extraneous to that main flow. I love their stories in the film. I think they're really good, funny, almost small, like short films in themselves that kind of link to this wider, bigger film.
Yeah, I thought that when I last watched it, especially with like the Don Cheadle thing when he's in the shop.
Oh my god, that scene in the shop.
Towards the end.
Yeah, because I couldn't remember what happened.
You're right, that would work as... Yeah.
Yeah.
That could work as its own little story in itself.
Well, that also speaks to the kind of the core thesis of the film, that the porn industry isn't something to be ashamed of, you know. Because that story of him wanting to get a loan so he can start his radio shop, but no one will give him a loan because he's an ex-porn star. Kind of that thing of, actually, you know, the porn world is maybe more respectful and reputable than the rest of the world, you know, because they don't have this kind of inhibition with sex. They don't think of it as some dirty thing. It's just, oh, this is just something people do. Whereas when you leave that porn world, it becomes something, you know, a black stain on your personhood.
I think it does address the darker sides of that world as well.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. I mean, it's not
in ways that you might not want to give away, but
yeah. I mean, let's try not to, but I mean, let's not sweat it if we do, but. Yeah, it does. I mean, it's not some kind of, oh, this is brilliant and wonderful and it's just a really nice place. Because it does have, when you tip into that second half, you know, there's the kind of addiction, exploitation, and kind of a misogyny kind of becomes part of it. And I think what's actually really funny about the film is it explores Paul Thomas Anderson's love for film, not as a medium, but as a physical material, because one of the big things between pre-party and after-party, pre-party everything's shot on film and they have a really long sequence inside a camera, and then it becomes videotape afterwards, and there's a scene where they're shooting a porno scene on videotape, and the cameraman says, he says something like, oh, mechanically this is great, but there's no passion. And he's talking to the porn stars, but he might as well be talking to the videotape.
Well, I love that scene when they're filming and you see through the camera and you see the film and the lens, and it just explores the whole
the mechanics of the camera. I mean,
process of,
what's interesting about that scene is it explores the mechanics of the camera and sex purely as a mechanical act, you know. It's basically, you know, it's like saying what's going on in front of the camera, what's going on inside the camera, they're just business. I think that love for film, you know, the physical film, I think is something that's a good part of that film and a lot of his films, because what he's really good at is getting a tactility. He evokes time periods through the format he shoots on. If you see what I mean. Like Inherent Vice is shot in 166, grainy, kind of dirty looking old film, kind of evoke that hippie-ish golden age. And then the same with Boogie Nights, showing that switch between 70s and 80s with the film and then the videotape. Yeah. Oh, a thing we should talk about Boogie Nights as well is the Scorsese thing. Because it is... If it wasn't a Paul Thomas Anderson film, it's a Martin Scorsese film. You know, the big sweeping one-ers, the pop music soundtrack, and the Raging Bull ending. I mean, it is evidently deeply indebted to films like Goodfellas, which only came out like 5 years or so earlier. And Casino, which probably only came out the year before, I think.
I'd say it's a much better movie than Casino. Yeah. Maybe it's not quite as good as Goodfellas.
Casino is well, this, you know, you're bringing up all kinds of topics here, because I'm Goodfellas agnostic, and I think from the sound of it, I like Casino a bit better than you. But let's not go down that rabbit hole.
Maybe. Let's
save that. Okay. What was I going to say? Oh yeah, what Radiohead album?
The Bends.
I also heard the Bends. Yeah, I think so. Yeah. I mean, I don't actually like the Bends very much, but it is the Bends. It's the Bends if I liked it.
Yeah, the Bends is okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a bad album, but it's just like, in terms of Radiohead albums, it's not one of my favourites, whereas Boogie Nights is one of my favourite Paul Thomas Anderson's. But as a kind of... But for that metaphor, I think it's the one that fits. It's the breakout. Okay, next one, Magnolia from 1999. Well, you take Magnolia, because you lead the discussion on that, because I think you're more of an enthusiast than I am.
Okay, well, I saw it, I don't know, 5 years ago or so, and I just recently watched it again, and I liked it the first time, but when I watched it again the other day, it took a little while to get into it and remember what I'd liked about it the first time, but when this stuff all did start to come together, I just thought it was great, and I don't really know how to explain what happened, but I was really involved, and I really cared what was going on. I mean, I pretty quickly got into it, but at the start I was kind of thinking, is this just lots of different stories that aren't really going to come together in a satisfying way? But I think when they do start to come together, I just found it, for lack of a better explanation, just profoundly moving, and there were all kinds of themes in there that just rang true to what he was trying to get across with that, I think, and especially when you know a little bit about his history. And I just think it's like with it, I think his father is like a also involved in the film industry, and I think there's kind of interviews out there and stuff with him talking about how that affected him as.
See, I didn't know that, and maybe that played into. I mean, it's interesting what you say about at first not being on board, and then it all kind of coming together for you. Because I actually had the opposite experience. Because that opening, 10 minutes where it's like, they put out a forest fire and a scuba diver ended up in a tree, and a guy committed suicide but died of a shotgun wound in the stomach. And all that stuff, I was like, wow, this is really cool and really exciting and interesting and kind of funny. And then as it went on, I kind of thought, this had better come together in the way those other stories come together. But the final thing, the frogs, the bit with the frogs, I thought was really cool and really funny. But I was just thinking, that's just like a phenomenon that happens. Like, I thought it was going to be like, I like that his gun fell from the sky. Like, obviously the river had kind of had, I don't know what the scientific term is, but been sucked up by the clouds. And then, I don't know. I think its runtime was cashing checks. It couldn't cash.
It's over 3 hours, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like 3:15 or something. Again, though, I want to stress, it's not by any means a bad film. I think it is a very good film. But I think there is just something about it that I think comes down to it having a length that makes me think it should have more to it than it does.
I found the experience of seeing and watching it, I mean, usually I've got a bit of a problem with long films.
Yeah.
Just in getting bored. But I sat there and watched it beginning to end, and I wasn't bored at all, and what was I left with at the end? It just worked for me this time, more than the last time, and I think, again, he gets great performances out of everyone.
He absolutely does.
Again, Philip Seymour Hoffman.
Yeah, the sad sack who just is a kind of beacon of empathy, He's a kind of a loser nobody, but he has a real appeal to him as a character you really feel for. I think what you're saying is right. I think formally, I was definitely not bored by any of it. I think formally it comes together really well at the end. Like the way it's juggling these stories, and it's like each time you come back to a scene, it's slightly shorter and slightly shorter, and they're becoming closer and closer together, and then at the end you have a kind of like a montage-like effect. I think for me the most satisfying bit was the John C. Reilly story. No, the Tom Cruise story and the John C. Reilly story were the most satisfying for me. But again, I think he has the same problem he has in Boogie Nights, but to a bigger extent. Like, some people feel kind of extraneous. Like William H. Macy, I think.
I would agree that he's the weakest link.
Yeah.
Personally, this time, it just I don't really know how to put it more eloquently, but it just worked. It just worked its magic.
And that's all you need. I'm
it's a mark of success for
the best films are films you cannot explain why you like so much. They just get you. And I think, if Magnolia is one of them, I can understand it being one of them, because I think it does have a humanism to it, a real kind of affection for people. I I think we talked about Philip, but we need to talk about Tom.
Oh yeah.
We need to talk about Tom, because Tom Cruise
Tom,
in
definitely.
this film, my God, what a performance!
One of the best performances of all time.
Yeah,
I think.
really,
I would argue.
I think so. I mean, I didn't really even know Tom Cruise was in it. I mean, I saw you like mention him on Letterboxd. I was like, oh, Tom Cruise. I mean, I don't really care. I thought he was cool in Mission Impossible Fallout when he was like jumping off shit. But I doubt he's gonna jump off anything in this.
He runs well, but
Yeah, and then he explodes onto the screen doing this, men's rights activist talk, which is just. I mean, it's a thing that's aged really well, because that kind of like disgusting shit is still happening. You still get these like awful talks. And he's just like this volcano of charisma at the center of it. And just, if they just had that scene, it would be a great performance. And then he's peeled back, scene by scene. We see why he is the way he is. And this connection that he's missing with his father and the way that's affected him.
Yeah.
Which
is kind of what the whole film is about.
Yeah. No, absolutely. It's about like generational pain.
Which is, I guess, why William H. Macy has to be there. He's kind of an extended metaphor for what's going to happen to the other boy. But whether that pays off in the end or not, I'm not sure. I would agree with you. That's the weakest part of the film, and the only part where I kind of thought, okay, we're at 2.5 hours. Come on, or. Something,
like it needs to
like that,
become something, I think, but it doesn't as much. I mean,
I think you can feel that's the storyline that's the least close to his heart, or
I think it's maybe a feeling.
I just don't think he gives it the affection that the others have.
I think what it is, I think it's like you're saying, it's there as a kind of a warning about what's going to happen to this other kid, and I think he put it in there knowing this is what I'm going to do with it. But whilst he was so intent on showing, the effects of the trauma of being like a child star, he never, like you said, he never gave it the affection that he gave to characters like Tom Cruise or Julianne Moore or the John C. Reilly character. I mean, John C. Reilly's been in all of these movies so far and has been brilliant in all of them. And we haven't talked about him yet, but him. He's good. Know that he is good in all of them.
Well, another thing I like is that towards the beginning when John C. Reilly is just coming out of the house, after he's arrested and there's that kind of prophetic rap that the young boy delivers. I thought that worked in the way that's revisited in the. I guess I didn't have a bigger point for that one, but just back to kind of how everything ties in. I appreciated more the way that ties in, and then when the boy comes back in later on with Julianne Moore, I think, in the car.
Yeah.
I enjoyed those links.
I mean, it is
the story.
A film that ties up, but I think it's a film that ties up into like 3 separate bows rather than one big bow. I was kind of expecting it to all kind of be like, I don't know, for it to be one big thing. I mean, it is to an extent, but I expected it to have one climax. I mean, it does, but you know what I mean? I'm struggling
I know what you're saying.
to phrase this, but maybe I need to watch it again, I think. I need to watch it again. It's not immediately, because it is very long, but I do need to watch it again. But I think with Magnolia that must be talked about is the kind of knockoffs of Magnolia. I think Magnolia did a great deal of damage to the 2000s cinematic landscape. You have films like Crash and fuck, what are they called? The films where it's just like a load.
I've never actually seen Crash.
I think I have. The David Cronenberg Crash, that's a movie.
I've seen that.
Yeah, I think I accidentally bought the wrong Crash and started watching that, and I was like, what the fuck is this? And then I got the David Cronenberg one. And I'm
sure a lot of people did that the other way around.
Yeah. Yeah, that is true. They thought they had the best picture winning movie, and then it's like James Woods having sex with someone's leg. It is James Woods in that movie, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wait, no. Is it?
James Spade. I'm gonna get my DVD. I'm gonna check.
All right.
Crash ahead. James Spader, not James Woods.
James Woods is in Videodrome. Yeah.
Right, that was a digression. That's got to be cut from the podcast. Right, so Magnolia, Radiohead album, OK Computer.
Hell to the Thief.
You think it's Hell to... What? Just justify this. You justify yours, then I'll justify mine.
Okay, it's a bit too long.
It's a bit too long and has a couple of tracks that it could do without. Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, that's it really. That's
All
it.
right, I mean, okay, I had it as OK Computer because it has a self-importance and grandeur to it that I don't think lands as hard as maybe the artists think it should. That's my justification. As the audience, you can make up your minds. I'll maybe put a poll on Instagram of who's right, me or you. Let's move on. 2002, Punch Drunk Love, a film I watched 2 hours ago. Not for the first time.
This is a difficult one. I think I saw it a couple of weeks ago. I saw it when I first came back here, so yeah, probably 3 weeks ago I've seen it.
We're good.
So pretty recently.
We're good. We've got insight. I think the thing that struck me about Punch Drunk Love, watching it again, is Sandler's two big dramatic turns, Uncut Gems and Punch Drunk Love, have more in common than just Adam Sandler. It has an atmosphere of chaos, and it has a character who has multiple threads that keep interrupting each other, and a soundscape that tracks with those things and makes it a really stressful experience.
Yeah. I would agree with that. I think the sound design, especially in Punch Drunk Love, is fantastic.
No, really good.
And like you said, it
really chaotic.
Kind of echoes what's happening in to him throughout the story. The way it kind of bounces all around the space, and it's quite stressful at times. I don't know was it John Bryan?
I'm not sure. I don't know. I'll defer to your better knowledge.
Let me look it up. I think it is.
What we were saying about the soundscape and how it really complements the internal space of that character's mind. That is through the film. I mean, we get it through, obviously.
More on that later.
Yes, more on that later. But the way soundscape specifically is used in that film to give a sense of the inner space of that character, I think is a really good step forward for Paul Thomas Anderson, because I don't remember it being as present in those first three films, but it is something he uses again and again in his later films. And I think as a kind of
almost like a leitmotif in this one. I don't know if that's the correct music term, but
I don't know. Again, I'll defer to your better judgment on that one. It has those elements of I think particularly Boogie Nights, these kind of long, sweeping single takes on tracks and cranes kind of sliding all over the shot. But it's a really interesting way of watching how someone's style develops, because in Boogie Nights, it's clearly a Scorsese thing. In this film, it is something else entirely. He's using these smooth shots, not as super cool kind of glamorous movements. They are, they are about the chaos that is going on in this guy's head, and he can't control it, and he's really agitated and angry, and he doesn't know why all the time. And you've got these camera angles, zooming around him and through his office and through his windows and things like that, and kind of him using earlier techniques that were kind of homages and then using them for his own means, I think is a really good step of development for him in this film.
I think it's right what you said about this film inhabits the headspace of that character in a way that his earlier films didn't.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely, because
in the same way,
those first three films were cast films. This is indisputably Adam Sandler's film. You know, those first three are
Yeah.
all about these casts and a kind of, you know, a family and a collection of people, whereas Punch Drunk Love is about what's going on inside the guy's head, like you said. And that kind of... Because first time I watched it, I liked it, I wasn't that impressed. Watching it again, I have warmed to it. I still don't think it's as brilliant as a lot of people say it is, but I appreciated it more. And I think actually that central love story does feel sweeter than I remember it being. And I do find Sandler a sympathetic character.
But yeah, there's a creepiness.
Yeah.
Creepiness in the background.
Well, yeah.
Which works, I think, but...
Well, it's like we were saying earlier, he has an unpleasantness to him. He has a base level unpleasantness.
I was going to say, part of the reason I kind of went down that route of thinking about why it had been that I'd liked him and his performances, it's kind of interesting because I think I've seen that Paul Thomas Anderson used him in this film, not as some sort of ironic sleight of hand, but because he was a fan, a genuine fan of his comedies, and he saw something in them that he thought he could work into this story, which I think is quite important for this. It makes this film work. I mean, he treats Sandler with like respect and kind of, what do I mean?
I mean,
it doesn't seem like a gimmick, like I'm going to turn him into a real actor. It's like we're going to utilise the skills that he's shown elsewhere in quite different films. But we're not making a mockery of him. He's not the butt of a joke here.
Yeah, it's not like, look,
genuinely the star of the film.
Yeah, it's not like, look at the idiot act. It's like, like you're saying, there is a real respect there. There is a real kind of reverie for what Sandler does, because he's not doing what other comic actors do sometimes, which is they do comedy films and then they do a totally different performance altogether. You know, it's not like...
Which he's done as well, like in the Meyerowitz stories. And
yeah, true. But
I guess there's still a kind of comic edge to that. But you're right, this is a similar performance to what he does in the comedies.
You could take that Adam Sandler performance from Punch Drunk Love, fuck about with it a bit, and you'd probably get Billy Madison. You know, it is very much a Sandler performance. And I think I heard a story about Sandler in relation to Uncut Gems, which is the reason he does films like The Waterboy and stuff, is because it's easy money. And I mean, you can't fault him for that. You know, if someone's going to pay you millions of dollars to fart about, and you get to go on holiday to like Hawaii or whatever and shoot, then you're going to do it. But when he challenges himself... And
12-year-old boys love them.
Yeah, exactly. When you challenge yourself, though, with a movie like Punch Drunk Love or with a movie like Uncut Gems, he's a brilliant actor. I think if he had decided to, if he wanted to, he could have been one of the greatest actors of the 21st century. Because those two performances in those two films are absolutely brilliant. I think what should be said about Punch Drunk Love is how different it is to his... maybe not Hard Eight. I mean, Hard Eight's kind of different to all his work, but how different it is to Boogie Nights and Magnolia. It's a lot weirder. It's a lot less slick. It's got a very distinctive aesthetic that I think is entirely Anderson's own. It has the way everything shines in that film, and there's a lot of like lens flares and overpowering light and things like that, and how... and those weird little intermissions with the painted... Well, again, I think that's really good for...
I don't know what they are.
Yeah, for getting us into his headspace. And I think that kind of coming into his own as a filmmaker... Because in many ways, Punch Drunk Love feels like a debut film. You know, it's kind of small in scale, it's kind of weird, it's singular, but it is done with a confidence and done with a kind of someone who has developed what kind of filmmaker they are.
Yeah, I think it's a fresh start from his other films, I think, because although there's definitely reference points in here to other stuff, and there's still like the Altman influence with the Popeye thing and everything. This isn't like him doing like doing Altman, doing Scorsese, or taking that influence. This is like his first film, I think, where it's like, this is my own thing, and it's completely different to anything you've seen before, and it's like serious in a way the others weren't. It's not kind of self-referential or anything. It's not winking at you. It's funny, but it's like serious, and it never breaks from that consistent kind of tone and don't know what you would call it, atmosphere throughout.
It's like, it's not, he's not saying, like, I mean, this is back to the Tarantino thing about the comparison between them. He's no longer at a point where he's saying, look, Mum, I'm making a movie. He's just doing it. He's just getting his head down and making a movie. And it's a good movie. I mean, I don't like it as much as Boogie Nights, but I think it is a good movie. But this whole thing about us saying this is a total left turn from the track he was on. It's not a big cast film. It's a one-man film. It's not on a massive canvas. It's very small, you know, just small-scale movie. A film about an internal film, you know, not about big landscapes or groups of people. It's about one man inside his head. And so that leads us into the Radiohead analogy, and this is his Kid A. Mm-hmm. Yeah?
Agreed.
Absolutely. Okay.
Yeah.
Fantastic. You got anything else about Punch Drunk Love you want to say?
I like everything about it on paper, but I think I've seen it 3 times, and I'm always left just thinking I wanted something a little bit more from it, and I'm not really sure what that is.
More Philip Seymour Hoffman?
Maybe that's the idea. Maybe. I like it when he finally appears in person.
Didn't I fucking warn you? Yeah.
Shut the fuck up.
He's so great. I love him so much. All right, let's move on then to the first film without Philip Seymour Hoffman in it. There Will Be Blood, 2007. What a movie. I mean, I can make no bones about it. I think There Will Be Blood is an absolute stone cold masterpiece. From kind of the opening sequence of him going down the hole, hammering away, it's a really brutal, really physical, just experiential movie. You can feel the dust, you can feel the hard rocks, you can feel the pickaxe, and I just like how dirty it is as well, just that opening bit. I mean, yeah, what do you think?
It's great. There's not much to say about it that hasn't already been said.
I mean, just
but I need to see it again, really.
No, me too.
I've not seen it for probably a couple of years.
I last watched it a couple of months ago, I think. But it you know, just a fantastic kind of parable about American capitalism and just corruption of power and greed. And I think its strengths lie in being a really great issue-based film that also has magnetic performances and characters that you can totally get into the headspace of. And it's like he's taken those skills from Punch Drunk Love of learning how to create a character and dissecting their psychology, you know, and then transplanting it onto a much less experimental film and taking those skills and bringing them back for There Will Be Blood. I mean, goes without saying, Daniel Day-Lewis absolutely rocks. And delivering some of the most kind of iconic lines in modern cinema. Not just the lines, but the delivery.
Milkshake.
I drink your milkshake. and the end. I'm finished. Just, you know, he's on fire. I mean, he's always on fire, but I think what There Will Be Blood did showed how great of an actor's director Paul Thomas Anderson is. Because, I mean, it was always there, but it demonstrated his capacity for really brilliant leading actor, leading director collaborations that he does, you know. He has his collaborators. He has, later in his career, Joaquin Phoenix. Throughout his career, Philip Seymour Hoffman. And then throughout his career, Daniel Day-Lewis. Those kind of 3 leading actors that I think those guys just have a connection. And they just know... It just feels like there's an ease of communication there between them They feel totally safe in each other's hands, and it's, you know, it's virtuoso. It's brilliant.
Yeah.
I mean, it's annoying. There Will Be Blood is a film I absolutely adore, but I almost have nothing to say about it because it's
Yeah, me
so
too.
full of brilliant things to even start discussing it. We could be here for hours, I think, talking about it. And also,
I would say that
yeah,
it is so dense in its content that at times it makes for like a kind of overwhelming experience watching it.
yeah.
So much so that, I mean, I think it is the kind of film that you do need to see more than once to be able to start to unpick it.
I remember it just being totally captivating throughout. And I think what it does is it brings the scale of films like Magnolia and Boogie Nights and his kind of capacity for creating brilliant environments and designs, along with his capacity from Punch Drunk Love for creating really brilliant, enigmatic leading characters, and brings them together into this absolute masterpiece of a film. And Johnny Greenwood score, gorgeous.
Yeah, this is their first
Yeah.
first time they
Yeah,
worked
I think
together.
it was. Yeah, and just the way it looks as well. The kind of the images come back to me of him, you know, in that field with the mist and the horse and the tower on fire, and the way he treats his son throughout the film, and then that end bit where he was like, "You're just a prop to me. You were just a cute little thing to help me buy land." It's just, I mean, yeah, what a monster. What monsters kind of American capitalism creates. Yeah, phenomenal movie. I feel like I'm
I need to see it again,
raving
but-
about it rather than talking about it. But if you haven't seen it, go watch it. Or if you haven't seen it in
For sure.
2 years, go watch it. What Radiohead album have you got it down for?
Oh, okay. That's
I
hard.
put in Rainbows because it brings elements from his earlier work, his more rock influenced work, if you will, of the kind of the big landscapes and these huge canvases he paints his stories on, and then elements from his more electronic work, like Punch Drunk Love, of this great lead man, and he brings them together.
I agree about In Rainbows.
Brilliant. Let's move on then to 2012 with The Master. It is a gorgeous looking film. It was the first thing that struck me rewatching it is the 70mm format and the kind of the scale of these images he captures of the salt plains and the bicycle and the inside of the big warship and all these things that he captures, you know, with a real, genuine, awe-inspiring beauty to them. But then once you get past that kind of the surface level of it, it is an intensely brilliant psychological work about the relationship, you know, between these two men and you know, how war damages people and how faith is used to fill gaps in people's psyches and repair them.
Yeah, The Master is one of my favourite films. And again, I think you can't really get all the rewards from it in one viewing, but it's almost hard to sum up into words. I think would be to rob someone of the experience of watching
again,
it. And I
if
think
you haven't seen The Master, go and watch
even
it.
Even more so than There Will Be Blood. This is just utilising everything that makes film different to other mediums to the highest order, which makes it really hard to sum up and explain why it's interesting and what's special about it.
It is a film that is,
I would urge everyone to.
Incredibly interesting, but if anyone asks you why it's interesting, it's very hard. I mean, you know, the kind of for me, it's the core bond between the Joaquin Phoenix character and the Philip Seymour Hoffman character. Just that kind of the way they fill a gap in each other's lives. And I think people have much been written about kind of how it's a homoerotic relationship. I don't know if it is. I think it's a relationship about two men who are very much in love with each other, but I think it's a spiritual thing rather than like a sexual thing, I think.
For sure, yeah.
But another thing that's important to talk about with the Master kind of in the current landscape after Joaquin Phoenix has won Best Actor. The performance of Arthur Fleck in The Joker is the performance of Freddie Quell from The Master, just cranked up to 11, and with all the kind of the nuances and delicate character work that's done in The Master removed. You know, this kind of very skinny, creepy, you know, goblin-like gentleman kind of, you know.
Yeah.
Do you see what I mean? I think they are.
Yeah, I see what you mean. I thought You Were Never Really Here, but I think you're right. There's probably even more in common.
Well, yeah, I think it's both.
With this performance.
You know, I think it is. It's a film that the Joker is a film that takes from both the Master performance and the You Were Never Really Here performance. I want to talk about the scene in the middle of the film when they do the hypnotherapy thing. You know, not hypnotherapy. I don't know what it's called, but like, if you lie, I'll slap you.
The processing.
Yeah, that is just, I mean, a really tense bit of character work. Because he's both Paul Thomas Anderson and the Philip Seymour Hoffman character are breaking down the Joaquin Phoenix character to his kind of primal urges, his kind of primal self. You know, they're stripping away all the artifice, with using a kind of violence towards him, and a really magnetic scene. I also think The Master has some of, like, as far as female characters go in Paul Thomas Anderson's work, I think Amy Adams is a really good one, because I don't think...
She is.
As much as I love Paul Thomas Anderson, I don't think he writes great characters for women, kind of, in his work. I think Roller Girl in Boogie Nights is really good. Julianne Moore, whenever Julianne Moore shows up, she gets a pretty good character.
Oh yeah, she's great in both Magnolia and Boogie Nights. And also, I think there's a great female role in Phantom Thread.
Yeah, we'll come to that. Yeah, but yeah, like in Punch Drunk Love, is it Emily Mortimer? No, it's Emily Watson. Thank you. The Emily Watson character in that is not great. And There Will Be Blood has like no female characters in it. But I think in The Master, he gets this powerful woman who's not taking any shit from Philip Seymour Hoffman and kind of, you know, controls him in what ways she can.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, kind of, you know, a more sad note is this was Philip Seymour Hoffman's last collaboration with Paul Thomas Anderson, I think, wasn't it? Because he died the year after.
Yeah. Unfortunately.
I mean, yeah, it goes without saying, just an immense tragedy, an immense loss, because he, you know, time after time turned in the most, like we've been saying, the most sympathetic portrayals of characters who on paper are not sympathetic at all. You know, narcissists, sad sacks,
I don't think
losers.
This film would work if he wasn't in that role.
But again, the character...
In the same way, anyway.
Yeah, the character of the Master is not quite a traditional Seymour Hoffman character, because he's not a loser. He is kind of a guy who has his life together a little bit. And I think when I first... Because we're first introduced to him on the boat, isn't it? And he's giving a speech.
Yeah, when he...
And the moment he came on screen, I was instantly drawn to him. And I was trying to figure out what it was that he was reminding me of. And it's Orson Welles. He's got that kind of... that charisma, that immense screen-dominating presence that Orson Welles had when he was doing Kane or Touch of Evil, because I think those films for me work because of the Welles performance. And it's the same, The Master, it's not just a Welles performance in that it dominates the film, but it is a performance that actually the way he acts, the way he speaks, the way he holds himself reminds me of Orson Welles.
Now you've said that, I can completely see that. Yeah.
Yeah, a fantastic film, and as a kind of swan song to the collaboration between Paul Thomas Anderson and Philip Seymour Hoffman, you couldn't really have gone out on a better note, because I think it is the best performance he gives in a Paul Thomas Anderson film, because it's the one where he's given the most time, and the most time to kind of shine and perform, you know. Because in other films he's kind of like a distraction. He's the side character that is maybe almost more appealing than the main character, whereas in this one you're there for
almost
Philip,
doing the show. Yeah.
What Radiohead album?
I don't know for this one. I don't know. I think it could be a Moon-Shaped Pool.
I said a Moon-Shaped Pool as well, yeah, because it has, to me, an elegance and a simplicity of just watching a filmmaker who is, or a band that has
at the top of their game.
Yeah, absolutely at the top of their game, and are just doing what they love, doing it well, and they both have a real kind of melancholy to them, I think. A desperation to kind of reach someone or something that isn't there anymore. In the case of, Moon-Shaped Pool, Tom York's ex-wife, and then in The Master, that Freddie Quell character trying to fill the void inside him with something, whatever that is.
Yeah.
Right. From a film that I think everyone would agree is, a great movie, to a film that was a little more divisive with 2014's Inherent Vice. What do you think of Inherent Vice?
I just watched it the other day.
Oh, did you?
I was ready for this.
You prepared?
Yeah. I liked it more than when I first watched it, but I still thought, for a film that relies so heavily on like a vibe, like a environment, I just don't know if, while it's enjoyable the whole way through, I'm not sure if it warrants its runtime.
Okay. Yeah. No, I totally get where you're coming from. Yeah.
Plus, it's his first adaptation, I think. Oh no, There Will Be Blood's an adaptation, isn't it?
Yeah. No, I think There Will Be Blood is based on Oil, isn't it? Kind of
Oil,
loosely based. So.
Yeah, I'd
but
forgotten
yeah,
that.
it's definitely his most loyal adaptation, for sure. Because There Will Be Blood isn't quite an adaptation, but yeah. No, I totally get where you're coming from. In the, I think you feel the way I felt about Magnolia, about this film, because I can totally understand not thinking it earns its kind of length and heft, but it is a film for me that, like you said, it's a vibe film. It is an atmosphere film, and for me that works, because all the way through, it's about a character's headspace. It's about being in the headspace of the private detective who is constantly stoned and kind of stumbles from one encounter to another. It's like walking into a room and forgetting what you're doing and having to try and remember that for like 2.5 hours. It's
exactly.
Like he's wandering from place to place, and he knows where he's going, but as soon as he gets there, something else weird happens and he forgets what he was doing. And that's kind of how you feel as an audience. There's so many things going on at once that you're kind of washing in and out of, like a wave on a beach. You're being thrown in and dragged out, and just trying to work out what the hell is happening. But for me, I really like it. I think it's a really good atmosphere to it, and I'm a person who is a real kind of I love fetishization of hippie 1960s, 1970s. No, in like a crass way, like but by people who were there. Like Quentin Tarantino did in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and like Paul Thomas Anderson does in Inherent Vice. This real sense of place and tactility he gets through the costumes, through the kind of grain of the film that he shoots on. but I also
Yeah,
totally understand where you're coming from of being like, it doesn't earn it. It's like a nothing film.
I do
Would you?
like it for sure.
Yeah.
I think it's a really good film, but I just, because it relies so heavily on just an atmosphere. I think that atmosphere needs sometimes to be a bit stronger, and sometimes it feels like it's kind of drifting away into something where there's nothing to grab onto anymore.
Yeah, I mean, I think you've got it there. It's a drifting film. It really is. You know, you're kind of in and out of events, and you're not sure what's happening, and he's not sure what's happening. But it is an experiential film, and it is an experience I deeply, deeply enjoy. I also think it's very funny, but not in the way
It's
I
funny
thought
for
it was
sure.
going to be.
There's like a lot of laugh out loud moments.
Yeah.
Which I'd forgotten about.
But it's really offbeat, because I remember the trailer sold it as a kind of Big Lebowski, you know, laugh a minute farce. And
It does remind me of the Big Lebowski quite a bit.
No, absolutely.
I think.
But it's slower, and it's almost weirder. But like you said, there's loads of really good laugh out loud moments, like Josh Brolin eating the ice cream, I think, in the car.
Yeah. Yeah, he does that a couple of times.
Yeah, and there's Josh Brolin in the foreground just mauling at this chalk ice, and then in the background there's Joaquin Phoenix looking like he's having a really bad trip. Yeah.
Yeah, and the moment when she shows the photo of the baby, Owen Wilson's wife, and his reaction.
Yeah, the Josh Brolin performance I think is really good in it. He's very funny in that
really
film.
Good.
And well, actually, the chemistry between Joaquin Phoenix and Josh Brolin is really funny. It's like a kind of classic comedy pairing,
Buddy
the
cop.
straight man and the idiot.
And you can see that Joaquin Phoenix is just having a great time.
Yeah, I think
which I enjoy watching.
Yeah, it's a film that is just joyful for me. Well, and melancholic as well. It has a real melancholic streak. But it is a film where everyone is having a really good time. Except like 50% of the audience.
Yeah. No, I like it though.
Do you know anyone who really doesn't like it?
I don't think so, no. But I don't know that many people that have seen it, I don't think.
No, because I watched it with my family, and my mum left halfway through. She did not like it.
I could see that you could quite easily lose patience with it.
Yeah, it's something you've got to go with. You've got to give it the benefit of the doubt and be like, you know, I don't understand what's happening, but I will go with it.
Yeah, I do want to give it another try, which I think is a good... Not necessarily to understand it, but something that's been making me kind of want to go back to it, even if I'm not quite sure why that is. So that's got to be good.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea, because first time I saw it, I was like, but you know, what the fuck is this? When it came out, and then a couple of years later, I revisited it because I saw someone talking about it online, and I liked it. And then like a month later, like you said, I was like, there's something there, and I went back to it, and I've come back to it time and time again, and every time I watch it, it's better and better and more enjoyable because I realize you get to a point where you realize I'm not really going to understand this. Like, there is a story there and you do get it, but you forget it very quickly. And you know, you kind of go into it with the expectation that, okay, I'm not going to worry about the meat of the story. I'm just going to have a good time looking at the decor and the sunsets and, you know, watching these really funny performances.
Yeah, agreed. And Radiohead album.
Yeah, have you got anything? Oh, which Radiohead album? The King of Limbs. Sure, 100%.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah.
Because it's a, you know, a divisive one, a lesser known one, an offbeat, weird one, but one that I really like. So
yeah, maybe this is a grower like King of Limbs.
Yeah, King of Limbs haters come at me. So, Phantom Thread, 2017. I watched it when it came out. I wasn't all that impressed by it. I think it just didn't click with me. But I came back to it a couple of days ago, and I texted you when I was watching it, and
Yeah,
I
yeah.
said,
So
it's really creeping me out.
Uh-huh.
It's really making me uneasy, because there's this, I mean, we both said throughout it, there's this, I saw it as a fetishization, but you saw it as not that.
Not that,
But this obsession with details.
Yeah.
And the way, you know, there's the scene where he orders breakfast and he's very specific about what he eats, and breakfast has to be right.
Which is,
and
yeah.
the film has that same thing, which it didn't click with me first time, but it's this thing of, this is how we get into the mindset. There are all these details that we have to be looking at all the time, and they have to be just right. And that's what it does so well, I think, because you're looking at all this really intricate, perfect stuff. And what's disconcerting about looking at all that stuff in these kind of, you know, in these close-ups where you can see how fragile things are, is this could get knocked over and ruined at any minute, and it's kind of makes me really uncomfortable.
Yeah, no, I know what you mean.
And that's what Daniel Day-Lewis has, and that's when it clicked for me. I was like, okay, I get what this is all about, and then I just sat back and let it wash over me, and I absolutely loved it.
Oh, great.
So yeah, what were your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I loved it the first time I saw it. I saw it in the cinema.
Yeah.
And I loved it. And the people I saw it with liked it, but didn't like it as much as me. And I think for the same kind of reasons you were talking about, just didn't think it lived up to what they expected. But yeah, I loved it the first time, and I watched it again fairly recently, I think at Christmas, and I loved it even more. And I pretty much like everything about this. I think his performance in this is more subtle, but I think it's every bit as good and detailed as, and like completely inhabits the role, just like There'll Be Blood.
And very unpleasant, but very unpleasant in a different way.
Yeah, but
he has a real kind of. Yeah, sorry, carry on.
That's okay. Watchable as well, though, as well as being unpleasant. You don't want to look away from him.
Absolutely. I mean, yeah, totally compelling. But the actual character of Reynolds Woodcock is just a horrible guy. I mean, really kind of arrogant and self-obsessed, but to an extent where you understand that he is kind of a workaholic, and he's, you know, can he ever love anything as much as he loves perfection and working? And it's kind of like that. That's the into the character, you know, is that kind of workaholic thing. But you see why he behaves the way he behaves, but the way he behaves is so unpleasant, because I think out of all Paul Thomas Anderson's films, this is the only one that takes a female perspective.
For sure. Yeah.
It's 2017. Good job, Paul.
Yeah.
And he uses the Vicky Crepes, is that how you say
I was
her
just
name?
gonna
Victoria
ask.
Crepes?
Vicky Crepes.
Whatever. Vicky Crepes. You know, that character is the protagonist, I think. You know, that's the character you relate to. That's the character you
She's like the vantage point that you're experiencing it through.
Yeah, absolutely. Because he is, as a character, Reynolds Woodcock is knowable and unknowable. You know, he'll react to things, and you'll be like, you know, he'll react to things badly out of nowhere, and there'll be other times where you're like, oh, I understand why he's doing that, but it's, I think that core love story is compelling. It's really compelling.
Definitely.
And I think it's a more compelling love story than Punch Drunk Love.
I would agree.
I know we need to talk about Leslie Manville, because she's amazing in this film, and it's because I recognize her and I know the name, and I was like, where have I seen her before? And the film I remembered I'd seen her in was Another Year, but it took me so long to figure out that was her.
I've never seen her
because those two performances are so different. In Phantom Thread, she's really austere and unapproachable, and she says, Reynolds Woodcock's like, "What? Get rid of her," and he's like, "Don't." She's like, "Don't step to me. If you step to me, you will lose." And then in Another Year, she's this really sympathetic, depressed, middle class character.
I need to see Another Year.
Lower middle class character. Well, it's really good. You should watch it. Yeah, and she's really good in it, but absolutely unrecognizable from her performance in
She's
Phantom
amazing
Thread.
in this. She's the only person that's like any match for him on a conversation level.
Yeah.
She's the only person that can take him down. And meet
Yeah,
his...
well, absolutely. I think it's a really interesting film because it takes this kind of archetype, this stereotype of the great genius, creative man who's an asshole. You know, like the Don Draper type character.
Yeah.
But it plays with the power dynamics really well, and it plays with the dynamics of that story really well. Because films that are about asshole creators generally teeter towards, oh, this person's a genius, so it's okay. Whereas Phantom Thread teeters the other way, and it's like, this guy's awful.
Yeah.
He's really mean. And it does that by taking that Vicky Creep's perspective, and then also plays with the power dynamics by having the character totally subordinate to the Leslie Manville character.
Yeah.
Which, yeah, I mean, it's a really rich, really detailed, elegant, handsome movie. And I don't know why I didn't get it first time round.
Yeah, I love it.
What have you got?
I think we've got most of it really. I think the setting is really clear in this one, and also is completely different to any of his other. I mean, it must be one of his only films it's not in LA.
Yeah, it's his first film in England. And now you're saying that about LA, yeah.
And I think it really
and it does
creates a space where you understand where you are, and it kind of makes sense. It doesn't feel like he's out of his out of his element.
Not at all. No, because it is about that kind of sartorial elegance or elegance that is stereotypically English.
Yeah.
You know. And yeah, like you're saying, it gives it a real sense of place, which is what his other films are also brilliant at doing. Especially, I would say, Inherent Vice is really brilliant at doing. Because in a way, this film, you know, it culminates that vibe, that sense of setting that Inherent Vice has. It has those really compelling psychological characters that Punch Drunk Love has. Yeah, and you know, it's another film that brings together strengths from. It's a film that brings together strengths from his previous work into.
Plus, I just thought you've got the Johnny Greenwood score.
And Daniel Day-Lewis's final film. Yes.
Which is
the Johnny Greenwood
maybe
score
my favourite of all of them.
Yeah.
Which I realised this time watching it.
No, I think you're right.
Because it's under the...
No,
it's not quite so present as like The Master or There Will Be Blood, but actually it's... Especially that main theme that goes through is...
And also it has that thing of creating the chaos and the soundscape that Punch Drunk Love does. Like when he's at the like dress show and things are going like slightly wrong, and this soundscape is playing on that idea of having his perspective of this perfectionism, you know, and it's discordant and weird and putting you in a really strange place. Yeah, no, I think it is my favourite score by Johnny Greenwood.
Another thing.
Right, so what album have you...
I was just quickly going to say, plus I believe this is his PTA's first film where he is his own cinematographer. And
yeah, there's no credited cinematographer, isn't there? I think he did it with the gaffer from The Master. Him and the gaffer from The Master.
Okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, the look of this one, like you said, is just elegance and yeah, it's great.
I don't think it looks quite as great as The Master or Inherent Vice, but it still looks, you know, they're different looks.
Yeah.
And this captures the atmosphere perfectly. You know, the sense of place, the atmosphere, it's got it all there in the cinematography.
Great
and the mise en
driving
scene and all
scenes.
those. Yeah, the Clockwork Orange driving scene down the country lane. Yeah. Okay, so what album have you got it as?
It's probably a moon-shaped pool, I guess. And that's all I can think of.
Yeah, it has those elements. I put it as Amnesiac because it plays on the ideas of his Kid A, Punch Drunk Love.
Yeah.
But in a more classically arranged way, in the way that Amnesiac is kind of a jazz album.
Yeah.
This plays with more kind of classical textures than Punch Drunk Love's very kind of glittering, you know, electric blue look. This is a more subdued classical look, but playing on those same themes and ideas that they were playing with Kid A or Punch Drunk Love.
I just thought quickly as
that's
well.
Paul Thomas Anderson.
Sorry,
Yeah,
last
go.
thing.
No.
Just that this has like, if There'll Be Blood was his take on like the classic American novel, the epic kind of American landscape and oil and American greed and wealth. This one is very much his take on like the English classic, like I don't know what it. I mean, I think obviously it's not set in older times, or much older times, but you know, like a Thomas Hardy, like a.
Yeah. No, that's a really brilliant point. I hadn't thought about that. But yeah, you're absolutely right. Yeah. That's a really astute kind of observation there.
All right.
Right. So you say he's got a new film coming out, right? Which I didn't know anything about.
Yeah, I don't think there's much has been released about information about it, but.
All right. Well, I'm looking forward to it.
Me too.
From the slim details you told me about it, I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, it should be good. And he's
It's what? LA set 1970s.
I think so.
I mean, I'm on board. Just with that, I'm
based
there
on
for
that.
it. Yeah, that's good. That's good for me. That's all I need, Paul.
Yeah.
So do we want to do a kind of a favourites ranking of these films? I mean,
yeah, let's try it.
It's hard because I mean they all have pretty kind of they all have elements of them that are fantastic. But let's go. So what's your number 8? Your least favourite Paul Thomas Anderson?
At number 8, I've got Hard 8.
I also have Hard 8. Okay.
Hard 8.
I mean, we've gone over. Yeah.
Yeah.
You want to go over your justifications, or?
I just think it stands quite a distance below my number 7, just in every way, really. But it's good. It's okay.
Yeah, it's
fine.
It's a good movie. Yeah. But it's unremarkable and not a kind of barnstorming debut as maybe you would expect from a filmmaker of his caliber.
Yeah.
Okay. Number 7 then. What have you got for that?
7, I've got Inherent Vice.
Oh God.
But like I said, this is quite a way above Hard 8.
Yeah, for sure.
So we're into like.
I mean, yeah.
We're into like amazing film territory, even by the second worst or second least favorite.
Yeah.
Just because I haven't connected with it in the same way as the other ones. But.
Yeah, and I have Magnolia for my number 7, and which is quite brilliant actually, because the reason you dislike Inherent Vice, or not dislike, but the reason you're less favourable towards Inherent Vice, I think, is very similar to the same reason I'm less favourable towards Magnolia, in that I think it's kind of, it doesn't earn its runtime and it has a kind of grandeur to it that I think I just didn't click with. And there are kind of extraneous bits that I felt didn't go anywhere.
Yeah.
Would you say that's kind of your thinking on Inherent Vice?
Pretty much, yeah. Just that, some bits I thought could have been. I don't know. It's almost there for me. It's almost kind of like where it should be, but I just didn't quite stay involved as much as I wanted to in that kind of druggy atmosphere. Kind of got lost.
Well, if you give that another watch, I'll give Magnolia another watch, and we'll reconvene. And we'll see. I might not do it this week, but at some point I will do it.
Okay.
6.
6, I've got Punch Drunk Love, which
I also have Punch Drunk Love.
Ah, nice. I think it's probably crept down a bit from where I once might have put it. It never would have been up there in the top ones, but I think I've just finally come to terms with the fact that I don't think it's the like bold statement that some people say it is, and it's just a good one, if not great, but doesn't reach that upper echelon for me.
No, absolutely. I mean, it's a cute kind of I hate to use the word quirky, idiosyncratic. We'll use that instead.
Better.
It's an idiosyncratic film that has a real unique identity to it, but as an actual story, as an actual thing to become invested in, it's not as involving as his other work.
Yeah.
No, I agree. Punch Drunk Love, number 6. Okay, number 5.
5, I've got Boogie Nights.
Whoa, what's this?
However, from 5 up, they're almost interchangeable, I would say. Because I think from there he's got like such a solid solid body of work.
Okay,
That's no slight to Boogie Nights.
You need to justify that, young man. I'm not taking this Boogie Nights slander. What was your thinking behind that?
Not much really. It's more gut instinct. It was number 1 once.
Yeah.
And I like it as much now. It's just that I like the others that much more than I did.
I think that's a good way of putting it. In that it's not that I like it less than the other ones. It's that I like the other ones more than this one.
Yep. So, and especially with my number 4, it's really interchangeable, and I'll explain why in a minute.
All right.
What have you got?
Well, let me do. I actually have the same thing with my number 4 and 5 being teetering on the brink of each other, but number 5 I have the Phantom Thread, or just Phantom Thread, not the Phantom Thread, which was at one point my second to least favourite, and then I rewatched it and it's just strength to strength, and I think it might actually become number 4 having just talked about it, because I think it's a real grower. It's really stimulating as a film. I mean, gorgeous, stimulating, has this great central role that is played with in terms of power dynamics and the way the character is presented. But like you said, it is, you know, at this stage, these films are all so fantastic that, you know. All right, next one.
Next, I've got Magnolia, and I'd say that for me, I see them as being kind of like of the same ilk, like Hard 8, whereas Hard 8 is that much further down. These two are kind of like similar, seem to me to be the similar kind of like sprawling, multi-character, multi-stranded stories with kind of ups and downs. And I'm not really sure which one, but just based on my reaction to it the other day, I've just put Magnolia one little step above it. But I'm even thinking maybe that's the wrong decision. But we'll go with it.
No, I mean, I see where you're coming from. I agree. This is funny as well because my number 4 is Inherent Vice. So our lists are just these two films are our reactions to them are very similar. Yeah, I dig its vibes, man. I really gel with it. Although having just talked about Phantom Thread, I do think maybe Phantom Thread might have the edge because it is a better film. But I do really like Inherent Vice.
That's fair enough. I kind of feel the same about mine.
Good God, what a world. I can't make my mind up.
No,
Alright, let's move on. Number 3. Top 3.
I'm already regretting this, but at 3 I've got There'll Be Blood.
Whoa. Alright.
Something so bold.
You've gone wild.
Yeah.
You've gone off-piste. Okay. Alright, justify this then. I dare you.
I've got nothing bad to say about it really. I think it's pretty much perfect film.
Yeah. Okay.
I love everything about it, and it's unlike anything else really, other than some of his other films. It's kind of got this vibe that's different to anything else.
Vibes, man.
Yeah, it's all about the vibes with these films.
Vibes. We dig vibes here on the BACStage Boys podcast.
Absolutely.
Vibey movies only.
But yeah, so there's no slander here. It's just the other two.
Better not be.
Yeah.
My number 3 is Boogie Nights, which
nice.
I've explained why I think it's so brilliant, but I think special credence should go for it that it has such a high placing on my list is because of how funny it is. I think Inherent Vice is a funny film, but Boogie Nights is absolutely hilarious. So many brilliant character moments. You know, that you laugh at these characters, but you know exactly who they are from the way they behave, and they're
they're not
funny characters.
They're not just
you
like the
interact
butt of the
with
joke
in real life.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they are funny at the same time. So that's something I really love in filmmaking. That's something that appeals to me about the Safdie brothers characters, going back to that Uncut Gems Adam Sandler thing, is their ability to create these very real feeling characters who are simultaneously very, very funny. But yeah, that's Boogie Nights at number 3.
Cool.
Okay, moment of truth. Number 2.
So At 2, I've got The Master.
What the fuck? What the fuck is happening? Yeah, that was you had Boogie Nights at like 5. I was like, okay, something fishy's going on, and then There Will Be Blood at 3, and now this.
Yeah.
This is okay. All right, I'll let you explain yourself. Go for it.
I put it above There'll Be Blood because they're both pretty close, but I think while There'll Be Blood is more consistent and probably the better film of the two, I think the bits about The Master that are really exciting are more exciting to me than the best parts of There'll Be Blood. And the parts that really make me like pay attention in The Master are some of the best things in films I've ever seen. So while it maybe doesn't quite have the same epic story, it's And then for number 1,
yeah, go on then, say it.
for number 1 today, I've got Phantom Thread.
You heard it here first, folks.
Yeah.
Joe's lost his mind.
Because I've got no problem with it.
Quarantine's got to him.
There's nothing I would change about it.
Alright, go on then. No. I mean, I totally see where you're coming from. Because having just watched it yesterday, it is a film, I was going to sleep after watching it. And I couldn't sleep. I was just thinking about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, go for it. Sorry, this is your number 1 spot. Talk about it.
Even I know that maybe this is a bold statement, but it just...
Yeah, it is.
I don't know. It just works for me, and I mean, while Master and There'll Be Blood are like formally really exciting and challenging, this Phantom Thread kind of works better for me just as a movie, like an experience to sit through,
right.
and a story that's completely satisfying. But I mean, it's really close with any of them could have been that one, but just personally for liking, not necessarily respecting, I really like Phantom Thread a lot.
You've got me, you've almost convinced me, because the whole time you were talking about that, I was thinking about it, and alright, okay. My number 2 spot, see, I feel really conventional now. My number 2 spot is The Master, and I think you made a really good point when you were talking about The Master, saying that There Will Be Blood is a brilliant film throughout, but the high points of The Master are higher,
Yeah.
The Master isn't quite as consistently fantastic, but when it's at its high points, like the hypnosis scene or whatever, the slapping scene, or when it's the scene in the jail cell, or when it's the scene on the motorbike, those high points are so high, and and as a swan song to that kind of career-long for Paul Thomas Anderson collaboration with Philip Seymour Hoffman, I think it's brilliant. I think he delivers one of his best performances in that role, and the Joaquin Phoenix performance is phenomenal.
Yeah.
Really, really phenomenal. And Amy Adams' performance as well. I don't think we talked about her enough.
No.
We talked about her a bit, but maybe not enough. And she gives a really good performance in this. And it's also got Todd in it from Breaking Bad.
Yeah.
Fucking what's his name? Jesse Plemons.
Sure.
Yeah. Maybe the new Philip Seymour Hoffman, perhaps.
Maybe.
Similar face, similar capacity for playing sad sax.
Yeah.
We'll see. We'll see.
Yeah.
I've got to do a bold claim because you made a bold claim, so I've got to even you out.
Yeah.
And then There Will Be Blood is my number 1 spot, but I feel lame saying that because
it's
because
it's film.
It is. I mean, just totally captivating from start to finish. Daniel Day-Lewis, barnstorming performance. I mean, everything I'm saying, it's hack. It's all been said before, but it's been said before because it's true. Because this film, my God, it is, really something special. And the funny thing is, I think it was released like within 1 or 2 weeks of No Country for Old Men in the UK. That's got to be like the best week in the history of film ever. Yeah, and it's just having those 2 absolute seminal films being released in 1 week.
Yeah, modern classics. And then also the same year you've got Assassination of Jesse James.
And
Which-
Synecdoche?
Yeah.
Yeah. Blimey, 2007. What a time.
Yeah,
Take me back. I mean, you've got me thinking about this Phantom Thread. This damn Phantom Thread film.
No.
And I'm thinking, maybe you're right. Maybe he's right.
Well, you give it another.
Alright, I've got to stop thinking about this. Right, just off the cuff then. Quick exercise. Radiohead albums. 9 to 1. Just no explanation. Let's do it. Number 9. What have you got?
Number 9, I've got Pablo Honey.
Correct. I've also got Pablo Honey. Okay, 8.
8, I've got the Bends.
I also have the Bends. Damn, this shit's getting crazy. Okay.
Even though it's got one of my favourite songs by them.
What's that?
Yeah.
Street Spirit?
Yeah.
Fuck yeah, alright. We're becoming a hive mind.
Yeah.
Okay. 7?
7, Amnesiac.
Bro, don't fuck with me. I also had Amnesiac.
Really?
This is getting wild. Oh, yeah. Damn.
Okay.
That's crazy. Okay. 6.
You do 6.
Hail to the Thief.
Yeah, I
Fuck! Oh my god, what's happening? Okay, we can't have the same number 5.
King of Limbs.
Oh, no, we haven't got the same
Okay.
number 5. I had OK Computer.
Oh,
Okay, do your 4?
4, Moonshaped Pool.
Whoa! Alright, I had the King of Limbs. Yeah, now some controversy's brewing.
3, I've
Okay,
got
alright, 3.
OK Computer.
I have Moonshaped Pool for that. Okay. We lost our way in the middle, but we could
Yeah.
finish as 1.
Number 2,
Alright, number...
you go.
Let's say it
Alright.
together, alright? Number 2.
Kid A. Oh,
3,
damn.
2,
Yeah.
Kid A. Fuck. I also had Kid A. Okay, we could do the last one together then. 3, 2, 1.
In Rainbows.
In Rainbows. Okay, shall we, to finish up, should we do a kind of a classic movie recommendation? Because there's so many films out there that I know I haven't seen, so many films you haven't seen, and some absolutely brilliant ones that everyone should see.
Yeah.
So let's talk for a minute about a film we've both seen recently, a classic film that we hadn't seen before that everyone should go watch. So, Joe, what's yours?
I've got The Seventh Seal. I think an early Ingmar Bergman.
What's it about for anyone who's unaware?
It is about a knight returning, I think, to his home country. He returns back to find the plague has ravished his home, and it's basically him travelling home with a bunch of people that he meets and his sort of squire, and then also he's meeting a personification of death who he's playing chess with to fight for his life.
Max von Sydow,
Of
as well,
course,
isn't
yeah,
it?
who we
The late
recently
great.
lost. It was pretty great. It took a while to
Yeah, that's a good way.
to get into it, and a few things surprised me. Like, I thought the iconic image of them playing chess on the beach was like the ending of the film, but it's pretty much the opening scene.
It's like the first scene, isn't it? Yeah. A comment about the ending of the film, which really freaked me out when I first saw it, is I'd never seen the film before. I don't know when I watched it. It was a couple of years ago now, I think. And I watched that final scene, and I was like, I've seen this before. Where on earth have I seen this? And it was from a dream I had when I was like 7.
Wow.
Of the people, all holding hands, walking
Which
over
is really
a hill.
creepy.
And it came
Yeah.
back to me. And that really creeped me out. I was like, wow, what's that all about? But, yeah, a weird case of deja vu, that.
That's a great like final shot. Well, not quite the final shot, I don't
Yeah.
think, but
It's a film that takes itself seriously. I think if you take it seriously, you'll have fun. But if you want to make fun of it, you can. But don't be
Yeah.
that person.
I mean, I was actually kind of surprised by, like, I expected it to be more serious than it was. Like, actually, there's a lot of
Okay.
silliness, I think, that I didn't expect, and isn't in the.
Oh, all right.
Because the only other
I might be misremembering.
I've only seen Persona by him. It's the only other film by him I've seen, but that really is serious and like
There's a very funny, you know, the scene in Persona when I can't remember which woman it is talking about having sex on a rock.
I don't remember that.
Do you remember that? You remember that scene? There's this really weird erotic scene where she's just describing describing a sexual encounter she had, which is a really kind of striking scene in the film. It's my favorite scene in the film. And then there's a brilliant in Jean-Luc Godard's Weekend.
Oh, I haven't seen it.
He does a spoof of that scene, a kind of like knowing spoof, and it's like, oh, and then he cracked an egg on me and he ate eggs off my breasts. And it's a really weird but funny scene. But I saw that before. I saw Persona, and then I came back to it.
I haven't seen Weekend.
Okay, it's a Persona thing, but it's a weird one. It's not my classical movie I'm going to recommend. I would recommend it because it's very singular. But is hostile.
So just to wrap up my
Yeah.
Views on that one, I really enjoyed it, but I think at some point, now I know what to expect, I'm going to give it another go.
Yeah.
And go in with more of an open mind, not expecting it to be the greatest film of all time.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'd recommend anyone checks it out.
Right, yeah. Watch it again.
On to yours.
Yes, so my film I've watched relatively recently, I think it's in the last 2 weeks, that was a classic that I was kind of putting off watching, is The Devils by Ken Russell. It's about a convent town in, when is it, 16th century?
Yeah.
15th, 16th century,
I think so.
17th?
Yeah.
But it's a time of plague, and Cardinal Richelieu is trying to get control of France, and this town is run by... I don't know what Oliver Reed's position is, I can't remember, but he's the head of the church, basically, in that town.
Yeah.
And he's like the last...
Main character.
Yeah. He's the main character of the town, and he's the last bastion of not Richelieu-controlled France. And, one of the nuns, played by Vanessa Redgrave, has an erotic obsession with him and has visions of him as, like, Jesus, and then, like, them, like, having sex on the cross and stuff, and it's wacky. And then it just descends deeper and deeper into madness. It is a crazy film. I absolutely loved it. The muck, the dirt, the disgust, the blood, all of that shit. It's a really nasty film.
It is.
And really perverted as well. Just like everything in the kitchen sink, you know, is orgies and cross desecration and dead bodies everywhere. And that was something that I thought was really good about it, is this kind of the atmosphere it creates of this town in plague, the kind of the night scene with Oliver Reed's character walking back through the city, and there's people screaming and walking around and pleading, and there's like fires with loads of bodies in them and mass graves everywhere, and it's just a really atmospheric kind of apocalyptic end of days feel that is created in that scene and kind of runs throughout the whole film. But also, it has these weird moments of bizarre comedy, like when he goes to this woman who's being treated for the plague, and he's like looking at all the bizarre cures they're putting on him, and it's like on her, and there's like, you know, leeches obviously, and then he finds she's lying on a crocodile, and he's like, what's this fresh madness, a crocodile? And he's like hitting the quack doctors with this like massive prosthetic crocodile, and it's just
ridiculous,
an absolutely mad film, really, really unhinged, and kind of erotic and creepy and grotesque, and this medieval torture they have in it is really unpleasant.
Oh, that's hard to watch.
Yeah, really nasty. And Oliver Reed, you know, giving a fantastic, you know, really charismatic
He's
performance.
amazing.
And Vanessa Redgrave is creepy, and she's got this creepy sexuality to her. It's this kind of hunchback, repressed nun, and it's this really great kind of, you know, a parable about sexual repression and what that does to you. And I cannot believe it was studio funded, because it is an expensive looking film. It has these you know, brilliant costumes, gorgeous set designs by Derek Jarman, which I didn't know he did that on this film, and the set is amazing. These really immense, solid looking marble structures. They look kind of like they have the kind of solidity that Trial of Joan of Arc, the sets of that had, that were actually made out of concrete. They look really heavy and really big and
real.
Yeah, real. Yeah, but gorgeous and stylized and yeah, just a fantastic film. And it's not for the faint of heart, I should say that. But yeah, that's my classic movie of the week, and I think that's everything we wanted to address, right? In this episode, I'm not sure how long it's going to be.
Probably.
But I mean,
reasonably long.
Yeah, I think we should do this again. I think it was fun.
For sure, yeah.
We'll figure out what we want to talk about next time. Whether we do that next week or just kind of whenever we feel like it. Really, we probably have to give ourselves some time to actually watch some movies. But yeah, that was it. If you got to the end, which is highly doubtful, but if you got to the end,
congratulations!
Thank you for sticking with us. You've unlocked an achievement.
A new character.
You've unlocked a new character who will be revealed next week. Yeah, thank you for listening.
Yeah.
If you were so inclined, we'd be very interested to hear about your Paul Thomas Anderson rankings. So send that to either me or Joe. And depending on how hot your takes are, we might even address them in a future episode. Backstage Boys, Joe and George, follow us on social media and all sorts of things. That'll be in like a link somewhere. Good night and good luck. I think this could be the beginning of a beautiful friendship. All right, we did it. We finished it. Podcast completed.